from a long day.
Thank you, Bill. And this is the latest, well, not the latest, but the magazine I'm going to review this morning. And it features this lady here. Her name is Shawn Corn, who I had never heard of before. She's quite young and glamorous, or she looks it, but in fact she is 48. And she is what's called a yogini, which is a female master yoga practitioner. And she's written a book called Revolution of the Soul. Shawn left home at 19 to go to New York, and she worked in a gay bar there. She had some confronting experiences and saw some disturbing things. However, she befriended a man called Billy, and he said to her, "Ignore the story, see the soul." Now, she found that a profound lesson, which took her many years to understand, and her book is based around that. In other words, don't judge a person by appearances, because we have so much more to know about ourselves and then for people to know about us. Shawn studied yoga to help her with her own challenges, and she found that brought up some very deep emotions. Her thoughts are not to allow these to come up, not to be overwhelmed by them, but that every experience fosters our growth. So it's better to feel our emotions rather than anesthetizing them through TV, alcohol, drugs, shopping, etc., as a way to avoid what's really going on in us. She said, don't repress your emotions. Yoga teaches detachment, to observe life, to be in the world, not of it. But we shouldn't avoid difficulties or challenges altogether. Sometimes, she says, we can spiritually bypass, she calls it, the negative by going all Zen. But this is a way of avoiding what's really happening. And she says it's better to be real and to get the negative energy out of our bodies through sport or walking it out or some other non-violent means. She said that the spiritual path is not necessarily all white light, doves and rainbows. It can get messy, and that's been her experience. But she says, look at the saints, for example, Teresa of Avila, who achieved so much spiritually, and yet her ill health was really a great concern and great suffering for her. And also the extremes of emotions that Teresa felt during her lifetime, because her faith was so strong, it brought up a lot of feeling in her. Now, another article I'm going to look at with you is by a fellow called Shetty, and I have reviewed him before. He was interviewed some months ago. He is a young Englishman, actually, now living in New York. He's of Indian extraction. And when he was 18, he went to India and to study to be a Hindu monk, which was a huge thing, as you can imagine. And he's written a book called Think Like a Monk. So he was obviously very impressed with his training over there. And this article is called Gratitude is Good for You. Now, most of us will think, oh, yes, I know about gratitude. I think you might find that he actually takes us to a deeper level. So he says, gratitude is more than just feeling thankful. It is a spiritual gift. Studies have shown that gratitude lowers stress, lessens our intrusive thoughts in meditation, and gives us better sleep. He says the monkey mind amplifies negative thoughts often about ourselves. But the higher mind, which he calls the monk mind, is appreciative about ourselves and about others and about life in general. So it's really quite a switch. Research shows that it is impossible to feel jealous or angry, in other words, the lower emotions, while we are feeling gratitude. Now, he remembers as a monk in training that he would begin each day by giving thanks for the earth that he walked on, the light he could see with, and the air that he breathed. That reminded me of a book by Ernest Hemingway, which has the title, The Sun Also Rises. And that seemed to me a very hopeful sort of idea, but you can take that a step further and you can say the sun always rises, because it does. And that could be a book about gratitude, because the sun is always going to be there for us, even if we can't see it. Similarly, the sky is always blue behind the clouds. It's just our limited vision can't see that, but our faith can help us believe that, and therefore it is, because it is. Jay writes, when we are caught in the mind of poverty, we focus on what we are lacking. We feel we don't deserve love, and we ignore all that we've been given. A conscious practice of gratitude is a way out of poverty mentality that erodes our our gratitude with, and with it our integrity. When we think of not being grateful, I was reminded of M. Scott Peck, and he wrote, I think it was in The Road Less Travelled, that he grew up feeling unloved by his parents. And when he got married, they gave him quite a bit of money as a gift. And he just sort of rolled his eyes and thought, oh, they can do that. They've got plenty of money. What's that all about? You know, he really discounted it. And until some friends of his who are older and perhaps wiser said to him, look, I think that's perhaps the only way your parents can express love for you. And then he could be grateful for that. Shetty would say we should be grateful in all circumstances and at all times. Now, that's obviously a challenge in our world today, because there are a lot of things we look at and we don't like. However, if we look beyond that, there are a myriad of things we can truly be grateful for. He says, don't judge the moment. As soon as you label something as bad, your mind starts to believe it. Instead, be grateful for setbacks. Allow the journey of life to progress at its own pace and in its own roundabout way. The universe may have other plans in store for you. And that doesn't mean to say that you have to take it to an extreme and say, oh, I'm so grateful I lost my job. That's a bit silly. But he is saying, don't just focus on one thing. If you just say, this is what I wanted and I didn't get it, then all the energy goes to this particular thing. But if you say, this didn't work out, but there must be more out there, the energy shifts to a future full of possibility. Finally, he offers us this. The most important aspect of the practice of grateful living is to trust in life, not always easy. To live that way is what he calls grateful living, because then you receive every moment as a gift. Now, in another article, this one by Reverend Dawson Church, who's a Unity minister and also a neuroscientist, science researcher actually. And he writes an article called The Whole World Smiles With You. Now, some of us going way back may remember a song that Frank Sinatra used to sing called When You're Smiling, the Whole World Smiles With You. And this is what this article is about. It's called Emotional Contagion. So I'll explain that a bit later. He says that it shows that human beings extract emotional meaning from the facial expressions of others and then unconsciously mimic them. So we might be having a conversation with someone, they start to smile, and without realizing it, we may start to smile too. It's contagious, it's infectious, and it can result in us feeling those emotions that others are feeling. Of course, that can work negatively too. If I frown, you might all start frowning too, but I won't. So this is called emotional contagion, as I said. And it means that there can be a sort of a ripple effect. If I smile and you smile, you turn to someone else, they smile, and so on. Maybe the whole world will be smiling one day. Another person who has remarked on smiling and the power of the smile is Yogananda in his book, Man's Eternal Quest. And he writes, the power of the smile. Conserve the vital energy, follow a balanced diet, and always smile and be happy. He who finds joy within himself discovers that his body is charged with electric current, life energy, not from food, but from God. If you feel that you can't smile, stand before a mirror and with your fingers, pull your mouth into a smile. It is that important. When one is joyful within, he invites the help of the inexhaustible power of God. I mean a sincere joyfulness, not one which you feign outwardly but do not feel within. When your joy is sincere, you are a smile millionaire. A genuine smile distributes the cosmic currents or prana to every body cell. The happy man is less subject to disease, for happiness actually attracts into the body a greater supply of the universal energy. So there is a challenge for us. And finally, I will just show you this. Some of you will be interested in the Unity Masters page. In this edition, it features a lady called Reverend Mary Louise Cook-Furl, whom I don't know, but some of you may. Thank you very much.